Hello and welcome to HPA Global Insights, where we'll be interviewing experts from the dietary supplement, nutritional ingredient, and overall natural health food industry. Please like, subscribe, turn on that little notification bell, and comment below. Now on with the show. Hi, welcome to another show. Today we have our friend Ellen Schutt, the Executive Director of GOED, or the Global Organization for EPA, DHA, Omega-3s. Ellen, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for inviting me today.
I haven't talked in a little while and see what's the kind of latest and greatest going on at GOED. First and foremost, let's dive in. You have a new clinical study database. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, this is a labor of love for many years. We have been working on this, I want to say, since 2016. So it's been a very long process, but the goal is to curate all human research on EPA and DHA omega-3s. So we have looked at the 40,000 published papers on omega-3s and taken the information from the almost 4,000 human trials to be able to fully understand what the research says about pretty much every outcome, that every disease-related outcome for EPA and DHA omega-3s.
I think for most consumers or people that are not in the industry, when they hear the word omega-3, they're going to correlate that with, oh, that's for your heart, you know. So what is the percentage-wise kind of the studies that are looking at cardiovascular compared? There's many other areas that people are doing research on.
Yeah, there's a ton of areas. And I always thought that about half of the research was on cardiovascular outcomes, but it turns out it's less than that. So I don't know the exact number, but I want to say it's between 30 and 35% that look at a variety of different cardiovascular outcomes, triglyceride lowering, myocardial infarction, coronary heart disease, et cetera. But there's depression, there's plenty of brain health related outcomes. There's pregnancy, there's eye health, there's inflammation. So there's so many other areas that omega-3s are also important for, and the research needs to be understood. So it's really way more than just cardiovascular.
You know, is there any area in the omega-3 research that's exciting that you see that, you know, that's kind of targeting a little bit about, you know, immune system or inflammation? Like where is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of research, especially in the early days of COVID, around omega-3s and helping to prevent or lessen the severity of COVID, just because obviously omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So it makes sense that it would help. I know that there have been some studies that researchers have tried to do specifically on COVID patients, or the potential to stop somebody from getting COVID. But the challenge has been just gathering a patient population. You know, in the early days of COVID, it was all about saving lives. I mean, it's still about saving lives, but it was all about saving lives. And to try and do a controlled clinical trial with a placebo and an intervention was very difficult, because the doctors just wanted to do everything they could to make sure that people were surviving. So I think that there is a correlation, but to have the quantitative research has been challenging just for that reason. But I mean, omega-3s and inflammation is something that people talk about all the time.
Yeah, and I think I've been part of quite a few different, you know, webinars or live conferences talking about sports nutrition, and I know that's one of the areas that a lot of the omega-3s would focus on, is, you know, helping the athletes with all the inflammation that they, you know, banging their bodies around, like help them. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Exercise recovery, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. What makes this a little different than, say, someone just saying, well, I can just go on Pubmed and research or try to look these things up? You know, what's the difference?
Right. And we've had that question a lot, because you're right, Pubmed is really the starting point if you want to understand any kind of research. But the challenge with Pubmed is that it may say a study is about omega-3s when it's not. And you know, our data scientists will say that Pubmed is wrong 20 or 25% of the time. And the example I like to give is the VITAL study, which was a study on omega-3s and vitamin D. But there is a study in Pubmed looking at just the vitamin D component of that study. And Pubmed thinks that's a study about omega-3s, even though it's not. It's only about vitamin D. So there's plenty of times when Pubmed is not correct about something being about omega-3s. And the other thing is, when you'll see it when we go through the demo, that we have done a curation of very specific information about who the influencers are that are writing these papers, and what are the journals that are involved in this, and what is all the very specific demographics of the populations in a set of studies. So we really have curated. We start with PubMed, and then we've curated the data that's really important to somebody who just wants to understand the research on a particular omega-3 outcome.
Mm-hmm. And one thing just came to mind. Apologies throwing this out of left field, but there's, and this is for the whole industry, really, the whole supplement industry, is there's a lot of, media will grab onto something and say, oh, this vitamin or that amino acid or this, in this case, omega-3 is useless or it doesn't work and blah, blah. So there's this constant battle from the supplement industry to try and correct, a lot of media reports that go awry or go the wrong way or give misleading information. That's just kind of the name of our game, I guess. But,
right.
How is this, helping people to rectify, or, when a report comes out on, one of the major news networks and something says, oh, omega-3 is useless or don't waste your money. There's a component to help with that, right?
That's actually one of the reasons that we started building this database in the first place, which was the frustration over the media saying there's no science around omega-3s and this particular outcome. And while we knew there was, it would take us a very long time to try and gather all that information to have a quick response to a media story or to our members saying, we're getting questions from customers, what can we tell them? So that's one of the reasons we started building the database. And I guess the other reason is to understand what the research gaps are. So we mentioned sports nutrition and exercise recovery. That's an emerging research area, but once the database is finished, it will be nice for someone who's interested in that to be able to look at the data that exists and say, oh, well, here's where the holes are. Here's where I need to do additional research to be able to really build up that particular area of omega-3 science. So those are kind of two of the main ways that we see this database helping people.
So let's jump into a live little kind of demo and see what this database looks like.
Okay, so this is the entry point to the database, and it's divided into two different sections. We've been calling it phase 1 and phase 2, but phase 1, or kind of the what we'll call the basic search functionality, is in this abstract section. So let me go here, and in this section, we really tried to answer 3 questions. Is the study about EPA and DHA? What kind of study is it? Is it an interventional study? Is it an epidemiological study? And is the outcome positive, negative, or neutral? So if I look at pregnancy, for example, and you can see here on the left, here's the different types of studies that have the number of studies that have been done on pregnancy. There's 174 interventional studies, 100 cohort studies, et cetera. So let's look at the interventional studies. And then we see the list of studies and whether the outcome is positive, negative, or neutral according to what the abstract of that study says. So this is a really good way to just do a really quick, I want to understand what the body of research says about pregnancy. Okay, well, you can see here it's mostly positive. There's some neutral. Usually there's 1 or 2 negatives that I'm having a hard time even finding one here. Yeah, there's one negative one. Pregnancy is there's a lot of positive research about EPA, DHA in particular, helping with preterm birth and fetal development for brain and eyes, et cetera. So the first part is the study list. And then the second tab is what PubMed calls mesh terms. So terms that are associated with whatever search term you looked at. So no surprise here, you're going to see more studies about DHA at 73 compared to EPA at 31. So this is just if you want to kind of understand how the research is connected, that's what you would use this keywords tab for.
Okay.
Then the third tab is what we call influencers, which is our most interactive tab. And this looks at all the researchers who have studied whatever the particular outcome is. And the size of the bubble is the number of studies that this particular person has published. And the color equates to positive, negative, or neutral. So someone who's dark green has published really all positive or mostly positive studies, whereas somebody who is yellow has probably a combination of neutral and positive studies. But this is, and then the other unique part of this tab is you can see how it's all connected. So if you're, for instance, looking for an influencer that you might want to do a presentation for you, or a researcher that you might want to work with, you can see who's connected to who and who has the most connections in the scientific community.
Oh, very cool.
And then the last tab is just the journals. And this is similar, that you can see the number of journals that have published about whatever the search term is you're looking for. And again, the colors match whether it's positive, negative, or neutral. So that's a really quick overview of the basic phase 1 part of the clinical study database. And we see this being very valuable for somebody who just wants a really quick overview of the research. And you know, one example is we have demoed this with some of our members, and someone who's a finished product brand said, I would look at this before I go to meet with retailers and say, here's an interesting thing you don't know about this particular outcome for omega-3s. There's much more positive studies, and I can show you some of that, et cetera. So that's kind of the high level omega-3 research. Then the second phase, the research tab, gets into more detail. So this is, if I want to look at myocardial infarction, this is only interventional studies, and it pulls from what's in Pubmed. So I can look at myocardial infarction, and I can look at, I could divide it according to gender if I wanted to, according to dosage, according to did the participants have diabetes at baseline. So any kind of question you have about what the study showed and who the audience was, what year it was published, et cetera, all of that is in the second phase of this. And this is the really detailed part of the database.
Okay.
And so here you can see there's 230 articles on myocardial infarction, 142 of which are positive. And then we're still finalizing the database. So this is actually going to be a graphic representation of all of these different terms, but right now it's still just a list. But this again gives you a lot of the detail on what kind of terms are associated with myocardial infarction. And let's pick. And then you can delve deeper into what's going on in a particular list of studies. This now shows you information on the dosage, the duration, how many subjects there were, et cetera. So again, we're also building graphs, so you'll be able to see a forest plot of studies that were negative versus positive for a particular outcome. So I went through this really quick. This is just supposed to be a really quick overview, but it's an amazing tool, and we're really, really excited about it. But it's very complicated, so it takes a lot to kind of understand all the different things that this database can do. But we think it's going to be a really, really great tool for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I can right away see that this would be very useful to a company's business development team, just being able to grab that extra, like you mentioned, going to a company that they're going to retail to or something, and sharing information about it. And then on the other side of, maybe even formulation, people looking at
product development, substantiating marketing claims or health claims. That's another area where you'll be able to pull together a dossier if you're about to file something with the US FDA or something like that. That you'll have this as, and you can save your searches. And we're also building a kind of a dossier component of this that you'll be able to put everything in kind of a file folder. So still some some tweaks that need to be done, but there's a lot here.
Well, thank you for showing us that, walking us through the new database. It's brand new. How do people get access to it? Is this a membership thing only, or how does that work?
Okay. It's not available quite yet, but it's not a membership only. It will be available to GOED members and non-members, and it's a subscription model. So we're still finalizing the details of that. But we see this being used by industry. We see it being used by research institutions and probably universities. You know, anybody who needs access to the full body of research. We think that this will be very helpful, like we said, for the science, the scientists, and also for marketing or regulatory, to kind of be able to take the science and substantiate what they want to say from a regulatory or marketing perspective. So this is actually going to be launched in February at our upcoming GOED Exchange event.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely see that being useful for all those variety of reasons, and university, all those students that are in, their nutrition programs and, working on degrees and having access to information like that's great. So you mentioned the exchange. You're going to launch it at the exchange, and this is, what's this, the 6th or 7th exchange you guys have done?
This will be our 7th one. It's every 2 years. So we actually had our last one February 2020, so right before the world closed. We were very lucky with that timing.
Yeah, the world closed, exactly. Well, I was a speaker at one. Very happy to join in that. That was awesome in Amsterdam. That was a lot of fun. Amazing group of people, and I had a lot of fun there. It was very good. So this one's going to be in February, and we'll be in Florida.
Yes. Our Norwegian and Canadian members are excited to come to Florida. So it's February 15th to 17th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay,
very good. I saw in there, to just kind of tie this into China a little bit, I saw one of our mutual friends, Miss Zhou Jing, will be speaking there from the company TMO Group. I'm guessing she'll be talking about cross-border, or what is she going to talk about?
Yeah, she's part of a session that we're having called Understanding Consumers. So we have somebody speaking on what's going on with Amazon in this country, and then we have her speaking about the Chinese market, and then we also have somebody talking about the Indian market. So trying to really understand the big markets or potential markets for omega-3s.
Sure. Okay. And the GOED membership is made up of not just ingredient manufacturers, but also finished products, so consumer-facing companies, and from around the world. So I think that part of it is very interesting. And keeping on that China theme, how important is China to your membership, and what role does it play?
Yeah, I would say it's very important. And like you said, we have, oil suppliers that are interested in selling the omega-3 oils into China. And then we have finished product companies that are interested in being involved, whether it's through the cross-border route or through, in-country sales. I just would say the biggest thing is it's a challenge, and it's a difficult country. It's hard to understand these new regulations that we're talking about now, the facility registration and everything. There's just a lot that makes it a very challenging market to penetrate, but there's definitely a huge amount of interest from our members.
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the same across the industry. China's, a lot of ingredients are made in China. I'm sure you guys have quite a few Chinese members, but it's the consumer market side that everyone wants a piece of, and going through that cross-border and getting into the market. All right. Well, before we wrap it up, let's talk about travel, and because these things are kind of day by day type things. So do you have any plans for travel? So February, you've got the exchange coming up, and hopefully by then everyone's this virus calms down, everyone knows what to do and can attend. What else are you and the GOED team going to?
Yeah, I mean, we are hoping it's business as usual next year. I mean, the GOED Exchange, I think the challenge for that will be the international visitors. I don't think that, I hope that the US is not going to close our borders again, but I know Canada right now, they're saying no non-essential travel for 3 or 4 weeks. I know Norway is saying the same. So it's a matter for GOED Exchange purposes of other international companies being able to come to the exchange. But as far as GOED, yes, we're planning to go to Expo West. We are planning to exhibit and have a pavilion at Vita Foods in May. We participated in that this past October, I guess it was, but we're thinking that it will be back to normal in May. So yes, I mean, we hope to go to Asia next year. It kind of depends on how things continue to go and open up throughout the world. But I mean, we're hoping for business as usual on a regular schedule. As much as the shows, are continuing to happen, then we are planning to be there.
Sure. Yeah, we're a little lucky in the fact that a good portion of our membership actually has offices in China, and they have teams on the ground. So we've been throughout this whole coronavirus thing, we've been hosting seminars, we've been doing some conferences. Unfortunately, the international side of that, like you mentioned, couldn't travel to China because China's got a very restrictive quarantine program in place. It's just up to 3 weeks long. So it's, it's not ideal to travel to China. Not ideal at all. So, but like I said, a lot of our members do have big offices in China, and their teams there can attend and speak on behalf of the company. So that was definitely helpful. That allowed us to keep going, even though we had smaller events. So, we hope. I mean, I need to get over there. I haven't been back to China since this whole thing started. So,
right.
And
we're looking at what's the HPA-China in June. I don't know what's going on with that, if that's going to be an international event. I mean, we're certainly going to see what happens and explore the opportunity of going there, but a lot needs to.
Yeah, it's day by day. I mean, we're already way down the road in terms of the development of our shows and seminars for that time, for the HNC finished product show and the HIFI kind of ingredient side of that show. It all happens in June. And that'll really, if China still has quarantine set up, then I can't go, and a lot of international people won't go. But they did have it this year, and we had a conference at the event. It was a live event, and the attendance was pretty good. But I would say probably 30% down. Compared to normal levels, and that's just 30% of international travelers. And I think that figure is probably similar if you look at Supply Side West or Expo West. It's probably about 30% or so people are just.
I think both Vita Foods and Supply Side West, I think were at least 30% down, because at that point, I mean, there were no Asians at either of those shows, and for Supply Side West, it was right before the U.S. Reopened their borders, so there was really no international attendees there.
All right. Well, fingers crossed.
Yes, definitely.
Take your omega-3s and keep your inflammation down.
Exactly.
Ellen, thanks a lot for sharing your time with us and all your insights. All the best to you. Happy holidays.
You too. Happy holidays. Thanks very much for the invite, and we'll talk in 2022.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to HPA Global Insights. Please like, subscribe, and share with your colleagues. Any questions or suggestions, email us at info@uschinahpa.org. This channel is operated by US China Health Products Association, which is a nonprofit organization. Please consider joining the association and supporting its global endeavors. Your support is very much appreciated. Until next time, take care.